Previously, in episode 6 of the home renovation series, I completed 3 mini projects on rooms that didn't need a major transformation. Now they all have an updated feel and fit with the new style of the home. But now it's time for episode 7, where we're going to be doing a master bedroom feature wall and showing the master bedroom reveal. Welcome to the channel, Refinish with Jade. In today's video, we are going to be transforming this wall behind me and creating a DIY wood slat feature wall that you can easily recreate in your home. Let's dive into the tutorial and let me show you how you can easily create a wooden slat feature wall in a day. The first thing that you need to do is take your measurements. So you're going to need the measurements for the length of the wall and also the height of the wall. When checking the height measurements, you want to check both sides of the wall because there might be a difference if there's been movement in the house. Then you're going to take the height measurements and cut all of these lengths down to size. They were 3 meter lengths that I purchased, and so I needed to take them down to roughly 2.4 meters. I then got my brad nailer and liquid nails ready to go to install these. So I first needed to put some new nails in the brad nailer that weren't going to be too deep for the wall. What I mean by that is you only want the nails to go through the timber that you're adding and then a little bit into the plaster wall. Make sure you don't have your battery on your nailer whenever you're changing nails. You're then going to cut the top off the tube of liquid nails and place the tube into the silicone gun. When you're adding timber to create a feature wall, there is so many different designs and styles that you can choose from. I choose to have one horizontal piece of timber up the top and then have vertical pieces evenly spaced apart throughout the wall. So I added some liquid nails onto this first plank and then I installed that to the wall with the brad nailer. I just set it right up underneath the ceiling cornice, but you could definitely take off the ceiling cornice and have this sitting straight up against the roof if you wanted to. Once I had the first piece installed, I then just needed to measure this little piece that I needed, cut that down to size, and install the little piece. Now what I needed to do was work out the spacing of the vertical planks. So I took the measurement of the entire wall and then I worked out how many panels I was going to be putting in the middle of that. So for me, my wall was 3.7 meters and I was going to be putting 6 planks in the middle. But when you're adding planks to the wall, you're actually going to end up with one more space than you have panels. So what you need to do is add 1 to that number. So I had 7, and then I needed to divide my 3.7 meters by the number 7, which makes that measurement just under 53 centimeters for me. Before I can cut it down to size, I just need to take one more measurement into account. When I put the plank on the wall, half of that is going to take up the space. So what I need to do is take the thickness of the plank. For me, that's 90 millimeters. So half of that would be 45 millimeters or 4.5 centimeters, and then take that off the 53 centimeter spacer. So in actual fact, my first spacer is going to be cut at 48 centimeters. Once I had that measurement, I was going to cut down my first spacer. You're going to need to have a slightly different measurement on the ends if you're not installing an end plank right up against the wall. So you will need to cut a second spacer, but before you do that, you can install the first plank on the wall. Make sure you start at the top, hold your spacer up against the piece and then install a nail, move it to the middle and install a nail, and then move to the bottom and put in another nail, just to make sure that it was evenly spaced throughout the whole wall. Now, if the first plank was installed, I'm just going to check the height measurements for the second one and make sure that the height hasn't changed a little bit and I don't need to take a couple of mil off. And then I'm going to go cut down the height if I need to. But while you're working with your miter saw, you're going to also need to cut down your second spacer to size. Now, what happens here is that when you place the 2 panels side by side, you're actually then going to have half of the first panel and half of the second panel taking up the space that you ordinarily would have needed to leave to keep the spaces even on the wall. So on the first spacer you cut down, you allowed for half a panel, and now you need to allow for the other half a panel. So you're going to go back, and in my case, I needed to then cut off another 45 mil or 4.5 centimeters off the original spacer, and then that's the spacer I'm going to use for the rest of the panels. Now, in order to try and keep my panels flush with my wall, I also turned my miter saw to a 45-degree angle, and then I cut off the bottom of each of these panels so that they would then sit in nicely up against the wall. You can see here up a little bit closer that angle that I've cut onto the edge of the panel, but if you don't have access to be able to do this, don't worry about it. The wall is still going to look great. It's just a way to finish it off a little bit nicer. When you're creating a wood panel wall like this, the measurements is definitely the hardest part. So once you've got past the measurement component and you've got your spaces all cut, it's going to be really quick and easy for you to just go through and install all the other panels on the wall. You're just going to follow the same process that you did with the first one. Hold the plank onto the wall, use your spacer to get it spaced evenly, and then make sure you install a nail at the top, in the middle, and at the bottom. Once you've got all the panels installed, you're then going to need to go through and apply no more gaps to all of the gaps behind the panels on each side and along the top. Now, you don't absolutely have to do this. It's not a crucial component of this transformation, but it is definitely needed if you're wanting it to look seamless. If you don't apply the no more gaps to the back of the panels, you'll be able to see a gap in the behind the panels, even when you paint the panels. So it's definitely a much nicer look if you do install the no more gaps in around all of the panels. But it is actually reasonably time consuming to use the silicone gun and put it down one strip and then wipe down that and make sure it is nice and seamless, and then move on to the next strip. You're also going to need to go along and fill all of the nail holes because you've put nails in with the brad nailer. If you don't go along and fill all of those holes, when you paint the wall, you're going to see all those tiny little holes that you've added from those brad nails. So just get some wood filler or some putty and just fill all of those nail holes. Once that's dry, you're just going to then sand off all of the excess of the wood filler from those nail holes, and then you're just going to give it all a bit of a sweep down to make sure that there is no sanding dust on the wall before you're going to apply your paint. If you watched last week's episode, you're going to know what colour this is before I even open the tin. It is the green colour called Garden Rooftop that I used in the ensuite and also in the kitchen. I'm using this same accent colour throughout the whole home to try and make the home feel really cohesive. It's also just a stunning colour that's bold enough to be bright and daring and a little bit different, but not too bold to scare away potential purchasers. So when painting this feature wall, I needed to go along with a paintbrush and cut in all around the edges. So I had to use the paintbrush to get in all of the grooves where I had added all of these panels. And then I just used the roller to roll everything in between. I let the first coat dry, but then discovered I needed to add a little bit more plaster just around this power point where the power point had been moved because it wasn't sitting nice and flush. So I filled it up with a little bit more plaster before sanding that down, sweeping that off, and then applying a second coat of paint to the wall. I've completed the feature wall in the master bedroom and it looks amazing. The green and the panels just give an extra element and a little bit of a wow factor when you walk into this bedroom. It's not quite done yet because we do need to put the flooring in. We need to stage the room. I've got some curtains or some shears that we're going to put on a rod here just to create a little bit more warmth and element in the room. And then I've got some beautiful hanging pendants that I'm going to put down on either side of the bed. Once the floor goes in, we can then stage this room and then I can show you the final results. Now that the carpet has gone in the master bedroom, the room is feeling so much more warm. The carpet really just makes it feel nice and cozy in here. Now that it's all cozy, it's time to add the wow factor. So I got these beautiful lights from Beacon Lighting to really amp up the sophistication in this room. It's amazing how much of a difference adding feature lights makes to a room. It's those small details that really makes the room shine. Now that the lights have been installed, it's just time to add a few final styling elements. So let's take a quick look back at how boring this bedroom was before, and now let's see how it is when it's all finished. I hope you've enjoyed this master bedroom makeover and that you love the end result as much as I do. Thank you for letting me show you how to create a wood panel feature wall and use that to elevate your master bedroom. All of the products and tools that I have used in this makeover, including these stunning lights that I got from Beacon Lighting, are linked down in the video description. Now make sure you hit subscribe and come back next week where I am going to be doing a renovation on a small laundry, building some custom cabinetry, and showing you how you can completely transform a small space and make it look spectacular. I'll see you next week. But while you're waiting for the next episode, if you've missed any of the previous episodes, I've linked them here on the screen so you can go back and check them out.